to Chicago. We'll cross the street here at Lake in Michigan. Sounds like they're playing some music down by the Cultural Center, which is nice, but I'm gonna head to... Yeah, I've had this idea before where I would see if I could walk all the way around the loop by staying underneath the L tracks the entire time. And so this will be a good way to, since it's gloomy and overcast, there's a chance of rain here. It was sunny this morning, but now it's gloomy and little drips of rain here. So it's a good way for me to get to LaSalle Street Station. I don't often go down to LaSalle Street Station. It's behind, south of the Board of Trade there. Hey Daryl, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, thanks for tuning in from Burbank. That's great. We'll check out, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna, you know, it's about 43 degrees, chance of rain here. I don't know where this came from. It was sunny this morning, but I'll head around the loop underneath the L tracks the entire way. It might get loud, but at least we'll see some L trains, and I'm gonna head over to LaSalle Street Station. I don't often go to LaSalle Street Station behind the Board of Trade, but we'll see some interesting stuff along the way. Stuff we always see like this. The self-parking garage here looks like the grill of a car. Billy Goats in the middle there. Of course, it's not the original Billy Goats, it's the other one. But Sharon, how's it going? Chris, how you doing? Sounds of the City. Hey, thanks Sharon for tuning in to the Lunch Bunch. MDA Apartments. Yeah, I'm just gonna walk literally underneath the loop. I'm going to see if I can do a whole circumnavigation of the loop here on a Friday. Happy March 1st. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll go by. Yeah, we were by here yesterday. We walked by the Emerald Loop, Harold Washington College. It's all quiet here now. I don't hear any trains. But here we'll wait for the light here. Michelle, how you doing? Krista, yeah. Happy Friday, we made it. Well, at least to lunchtime. There's a nice scooter going by. Yeah. Here, I'm crossing here. There's nobody else coming. This is one way here. There, we got the light here. So you see there's, we'll come up that way at the end of our walk there. We'll walk up Wabash, but we'll start here on Lake Street. We'll head all the way to Wells, and then we'll go down Wells to LaSalle Street Station there. There's a nice little like square there next to the Chicago Stock Exchange building. We'll check that out. Hey Diane, how you doing there? Yeah, happy Friday. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a cool route, you know. Hopefully I've had this idea. I was like, what if I just walk around the entire loop underneath the L tracks? It'd be better if I was in the middle of the street there, but we'll cross back and forth a few times. And strangely, I don't hear any trains at all. So let's see how long we can go before we see a train. Maybe they stopped moving the trains here today for some reason. It's all quiet on the downtown front here. But yeah, it's a lazy Friday. There's not much going on. Hardly anybody in the office. People don't work on Fridays. Well, they work from home. They don't work in the office, you know. I'm one of the weirdos that goes into the office. The Price is Right. There's the Chicago Theater. Look at that. So here we'll cross State Street. Under the State and Lake Station. Here, look how State Street's looking nice there at the Chicago Theater. And look, a first class dive. Yeah, it's just a potbelly. Yeah, usually I don't go down this way. It gets like dark and dingy, especially underneath the Clark and Lake Station there where the transportation building is. Got a protein bar over there. Parking garage. Look at this kind of neoclassical arch here. I've been in that building. There's housing there. You can rent apartments in it. You got a nice little balcony right in the loop there. Christy, how you doing there? The way I roll, yeah. The Fisher building. Yeah, we'll go past the Fisher, but yeah, maybe we can check out the lobby. I don't know if I've ever gone in that lobby, at least live streamed it. That's a good idea. Yeah, there's the Fisher's building, the Monadnock building. We'll get around there. That's the plan. You know, what time we got here? 12:08. And yeah, we should have time to check that out. The Fisher building that Chris is talking about is a vintage skyscraper. It's more windows than building, which was an innovation. Thin, narrow columns. People thought it was going to fall down because it didn't look sturdy enough. Didn't understand how steel frame construction worked. It was new at that time. Look at the underneath the L tracks there on Lake Street. There's a rare sky bridge, a skywalk, and it's actually part of the pedway system. I don't go up there too much because it really, yeah, see, look, the gallery shops of Leo Burnett building. Here comes the L. Finally, we get the pink line heading around the L here. And of course, we can't see it. We can't see it. It's behind the big beam there, but the shops of the Leo Burnett building, there's not many shops up there anymore. There used to be. Here's the Goodman Theater. Here we'll cross, yeah, we got the light here. Dearborn Street, looking south at Dearborn Station. There's the towers. This two-way bike path that becomes one-way once you get across the river there. And Lisa, how you doing there? You had a protein bar? That's great. Yeah, having your protein lunch. Thanks for tuning in here. Yeah, we're just walking around the loop, literally walking around the loop underneath the L tracks here. There's the back of the Thompson Center, the Hellman Jan thing. They're supposed to convert that. Google's supposed to convert something. Here's a way to access Lower Wacker Drive. For Chris, you probably know about this. See this car turning here? We'll cross here. He's got to run me over here. You see how that truck's coming out? That gets you to Lower Wacker Drive. They're making a left. They're heading down to Lower Wacker Drive. So there's a way to transition from Lake Street to Lower Wacker. The other way is, you know, in the middle of Wacker Street, or when you get off of Lakeshore Drive, you could just stay on the middle level there. But it's kind of mid-block, that mid-block access. What happened to that? That looks. Let's see what I said. It gets. That's why I usually don't come this way. It gets kind of dungy and dirty underneath the Clark and Lake Station here. There's CC. That's another skywalk. This is this weird 3-block connection they got into the transportation building. This is Clark Street looking north here. Look at the pigeons sitting up there. Yeah, you always see the pigeons. Here comes Amazon. See, they got the lockers here for Amazon. I wonder, you hear the train pulling into Clark and Lake here. See, this is what I mean. It's really like dark. It's always dark and dreary under here because it's the multiple levels, and you could transfer from the subway blue line up to the loop portion here. You see, we're right here. We're gonna walk all the way around the loop here. And yeah.
What can I catch the train to go up?
Oh, you go in right here. Right here. You see those turnstiles, and then go up there. There's an elevator or escalator right here. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's hard to find the station. You see you go in there, and you see this. Yeah, it's not marked well. You see, they were looking for the station. You see the turnstiles are right there. That's how you get up to the upper level, and you can take this you take the escalator down to the subway. Clark and Lake Station here, and you can enter the Thompson Center there too. See, there's the train pulling out there. It's pulling out on the upper portion. It's a major transfer point here to get to the blue line, which will take you to O'Hare. Then you can transfer to all the other trains that go around the loop, with the exception of the red line. If you want to get to the red line, you can transfer at block 37. I know it's confusing, but here, we'll get across here. We'll get across LaSalle Street. Actually, I'll go down this way so we can film. We can film the nice view we got to the Board of Trade here. I was gonna run across here, but I reconsidered here so we can get the nice view to the Board of Trade here. We'll get out into the median. Yeah, the way I roll, Bill. How you doing there? Lenny and Larry's cookified bars. Yeah, it's a nice dessert there. There you go. We'll check that out. Look at the LaSalle Street here. See, we're getting this planted median here. We're trying to get a view to the Board of Trade, but the trees are in the way here. That's okay. So once this pace bus goes through, we'll make a dash here. We'll get across LaSalle Street. Yeah, we made it. There's a good view to the Board of Trade there. We see it all the time there. There you see they got these informational signage just to help you see your train coming here. We're still under the loop here. We're gonna head down to LaSalle Street Station, then we'll check out the Fisher's building. Maybe the Monadnock, which is, it's beautiful inside there. They got old barber shops and you feel like you step back in time. There's a lot of things like that around here. Blues Festival. Oh, the lineup for the Blues Festival later this month. That's great. Yeah, we'll keep you posted about that. Yeah, hopefully I can actually attend the Blues Festival this year. I missed it last year, and there were people that came from Texas and stuff, like James, that I missed him. He's a huge rhythm and blues fan there in Texas. He all goes to the clubs in Texas, and he came up to Chicago for the Blues Fest, but I missed him because I was in Texas when he was in Chicago. What's the odds? But it's the way it is. Now here's the intersection. This is underneath the intersection where the brown and purple lines come in from the north, the green and pink lines come in from the west, and the orange line circles around here and doesn't get off. And this is, it goes around the loop here, but this is the four-way intersection where they got the switches above. And you see it's a rare, this used to be one of the busiest switches of any railroad system in the world because the number of CTA trains that travel through here. And see, we'll take a left here on Wells Street. We're underneath the L train the whole time. You see people riding bikes down here. Here's a barber shop. Look at this. Philip D. Simina barber shop. Hey, you got Wells Books. Well, it's gone. What's the station? What is that? Huh. Rosati's. There's Rosati's. I don't know if that's any good. There's a smoke shop. I guess I could show it since I'm on YouTube here. Hey Annette, how you doing there? Happy Friday. We're walking underneath the L trains the entire way here, checking out what's on Wells Street. I don't often go down Wells Street. We'll just do the whole thing here under the L tracks. Happy Friday there. Yeah, we got about 43 degrees. It's kind of overcast. It was amazing. It was sunny this morning, and then these clouds came out of nowhere. But the weather should be getting better this weekend, of course. We talked about it this morning. We'll do the Shiditarod shopping cart race tomorrow. Starts 12:30 Central Time, and then that's the start. And then we'll do the polar plunge there on Sunday. It looks to be really nice weather on Sunday in the 60s. What a great forecast for the polar plunge, even though that water's going to be cold there at North Avenue Beach. So we rode by on a bike this morning, and they got all the tents set up, all the warming tents and staging areas, and looks like it looked last year when we covered it. There's the Hotel Allegro Palace, Cadillac Palace Theaters right there. This is Randolph. We walk through here often. Usually we come from that way. So we'll head down once we get the light here. And yeah, Monday might get to 70. Isn't this amazing, this mild weather? And look at that, they got the nice forklift, electric forklift there. Hey, Blackhawks on the forklift. That's nice. Yeah, almost the weekend. We almost made it, so we just got a few more hours to go here. Look, there's a divvy station right here. Look at some of the skyscrapers. See, we don't often film this one. Look at that one. Look at this vintage skyscraper. Look at the detail at the top and at the bottom here. You can see it when you go by the L. And then that one too. Look at this. Look at these. They're hidden. They used to, older pictures of the Chicago Loop skyline, you could see these, but then they built so many buildings along the Riverwalk that they're hidden in the loop here. The beautiful tops of those buildings. And here comes the L coming by here. If I cross the street here, we'll get it here. Of course, there's cars coming here, so I'm not going to be able to make it. Here comes a bike here. See if we can get around this bike here. There we go. There's a pink line. Short pink line. Vinji Yuda. Urban street food. Soup bars. Bombay wraps. The Randolph Wells building. Look at that. Look at that. This is called the Randolph Wells building here. And look at this. Look at all the balconies. Look at all the balconies they added. And like I said, a lot of these used to be office buildings. They converted them to housing. And more people than ever live in the loop. And this will continue because LaSalle Street, so few people work in the finance there. Like, at least everything's electronic now, and algorithms and high frequency trading. And so they're talking about converting some of those banks, the old bank buildings along LaSalle Street, to housing like they already did along Wells. And like I said, there's more people than ever that live in the loop, which did not used to be the case at all. It used to be 50 years ago, hardly anyone lived in the loop. There was no grocery stores or nothing, you know. And East Lansing, thanks for tuning in, Chris Schultz. Some deep sunshine. There's Hannah's Pretzel. There. I hear the train pulling into Washington and Wells here. So there's a bunch of shops right here. Hertz. Remember we filmed these buildings the other day. Look at these beautiful buildings here. That's an older building that's still left here. It's a small, shorter building like you see on Wabash, but we're on Wells, and then they got the taller buildings cantilevered over it. Washington Wells here, Mr. Submarine. La Cocina. Look, Dragon Sushi Bar, yeah. See how dark and dreary it is down here? Look at that parking garage. Look at this parking garage helix here. Let's check this out here. Look at this. Look at this double helix parking garage entrance here. Look at that. So let's check it out here. Yeah, we'll get away from that guy. It's good that I crossed the street because he's yelling at somebody there. I guess they're kicking him out of the train platform and he's yelling at the security there, so that happens all the time. There's the Cafecito. See, there's a Cafecito up on Fullerton near me, which is a Cuban place. Got the nice coffee. Arby's. There's the only Arby's I know of in the loop. There used to be a lot more. Well, actually, there was one on Dearborn. I'd say there's still an Arby's on Dearborn. I don't know. Look at this lobby. Look at this glass lobby with this sculpture here. Huh. So we're on Wells Street at Madison here. Here comes a train pulling into the station here. See if we can get it pulling out when we cross the street. We'll see when it pops out. Look at this artwork. Look at this artwork they got in this. Look at this giant corporate building here. What is this building here? I don't even... 200 West Madison. There's the companies. I don't even know those companies. Here, we'll cross the street here. We got the light. Doors closing. Snow. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any snow in the forecast. It's overcast. Amishi, thanks for tuning in. No, it's about 43 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's about, what, 5 degrees centigrade. Here's the L pulling out of... Brown line pulling out of the Washington and Wells station here on the loop. We're following the L tracks as they loop around Chicago. But hey, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, the snow's all melted, and you know, we had a little bit of snow on Saturday. That's when I filmed there by the lake. It didn't even last till the nighttime. It pretty much melted. It was all gone by Sunday. And then we warmed up to really warm temperatures Monday and Tuesday. We did get a cold snap on Wednesday, Thursday, but we're warming back up for the weekend. We're going to do the polar plunge where they jump in Lake Michigan for charity on Sunday. But it looks like it's going to be really warmer than average temperatures on Sunday. At least that's what the forecast is, so we'll see. But yeah, thanks Chris, thanks for saying hello. And Lisa, Arby's has the beets. Wendy says, where's the beef? Yeah, I got that confused. Thanks for helping me out there. I need all the help I can get there, Lisa. I know, I got that commercial mixed up in my mind. Isn't that amazing how, you know, in my mind, I clearly remember the older woman, where's the beef, in the 80s. But that was Wendy's. That was Dave Thomas. You're right. And I got that confused with, we have the meats, which is what Gollum would say if he was the marketing consultant for Arby's. Gollum from Lord of the Rings. So this used to be the AT&T building. I don't know what it is now. You can walk through the middle of that building, and I tried to film it, but the corporate security doesn't like me filming in there, and it's got a really large atrium. Even though there's AT&T on the corner here, this is just a regular AT&T cell phone shop. There's the back of that building from LaSalle. See how that mimics the old Masonic temple? There used to be the Masonic temple on Wabash in Randolph. It wasn't where the Marshall Fields was. It was next to it, across the street. And you see how it references that pitched roof there. And here we're on Wells Street in Chicago. Again, 43 degrees Fahrenheit. What is that? 5 degrees centigrade. Above freezing, but not too warm. Still got my coat on. But I don't have to have my gloves on, which is nice. Thanks for the $5 there. Yeah, there you go. You got the measles. Who's got the measles? Really? I know the measles are going around. I heard that these diseases we thought we had eradicated are coming back because people are anti-vax. So thanks a lot. And I know there's conspiracy theories through everything. I respect people's right to stop what goes in their own body or their kid's body, but I don't know, I don't know how it's all going to turn out. Johnson Controls. Isn't Johnson Controls from Milwaukee? There's Milwaukee Tool. Chicken salad kick. That was your precious. Yeah, that was a nice. Why'd they get rid of that? Yeah, that was a good meal there. They had a lot of good chicken salad. So here's an old, see the Quincy station. I'm glad they kept at least one of these stations like the old time historic stations. And we'll go right underneath it here. So we're at Adams. And look at that. What is that? That's the Sears Tower. Look at that great view we got to the Sears Tower. We can see the full height of it. 1,400 feet. What is that? Over 400 meters tall. It's over 400 meters tall. When this was built, it was the tallest building in the world for 25 years. And now it's not even tall at all compared to other buildings. It's like half the height of the Burj Khalifa. I think they said the Burj Khalifa is tall enough if you stack the John Hancock Tower on top of the Sears Tower. It would be about that height. See, look, Quincy, you go up this old historic L station here, and when you get off there, yeah, it's really, they got like a little transition. You can wait inside there. It's an interesting station, Quincy, here on the loop of the brown line, and then the other side is the orange, pink, and green lines. And I guess the purple line stops here too. Egg salad. You want an egg salad sandwich? Brown, orange, and pink lines. So 1227. Let's see if we can make it down to the LaSalle Street Station here. Look at this view to the Sears Tower. Look at that. Where's the charm? Where's the beef? Doors closing. There's the ding dong of the L train, Quincy Station here. So now we're down by Jackson. Is this Jackson? Or is this, yeah, I think Jackson and Wells Street, Chicago, Illinois. Look at this giant neoclassical building. I think this is an old Burnham and Root building. And 209. You can go over to Union Station that way. Jackson and Wells. You can see the train on the other side there. We'll get around there. At least that's the plan. And I know I'm swinging around. So you see how the loop used to suddenly end here when the train makes a left there and goes down Van Buren, but they've since built a lot more housing south on Wells down towards the marina, or River City. They call that the River City, not the Marina City. It's another Bertrand Goldberg, similar to the Marina Towers, the corncob buildings. It's the same signature style of Bertrand Goldberg, the curving. And it's next to the river and has a marina as well. So, go figure. But, hey, look, the Tattoo Festival. I remember when the Tattoo Festival came before there. Let's see if they got the Bulls advertisement there. Let's see if it cycles back around to the Tattoo Festival. But here's where the L takes a left here. This is the southwest corner of the loop. And we'll go down Van Buren. And we'll go over to that plaza by the stock exchange. And then we'll check out LaSalle Street Station on the Metra. I won't linger there too long. It's the smallest of the 4 Metra commuter trains. You know, Union Station, Ogilvie, Millennium Station, which we've already seen, and I've gone to LaSalle Station before, but I don't often get down here. There's the Greek Kitchen bar. See how the L makes a turn here. That's Wells Street south, and they made a connection to Wentworth, so the Wells Street will connect to Wentworth now, and you can take it all the way to Chinatown. Look, there's a Qdoba. So yeah, let's cross to the south side here. This is Van Buren Street. There's some of the new housing there that they built along the river there, and there's more. The 78 neighborhood's going to be down that way. And yeah, I think some of the scenes from Child's Play with Chucky, they show this area where it's all grungy and homeless people warming their hands over barrels full of fire, and that's how it used to look in the 80s. This was very seedy, much more seedy than now. But you know, there's Van Buren. So here's where we want to go here. Let's get back here so we can see the L. If you ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, there's a scene at the end of the movie where you can see that building where the LaSalle Street Station there on the L, that's where John Candy and Steve Martin there, when they finally make it back to Chicago, they there's a scene there when they're waiting for the L train. Rain in the forecast. Yeah, I know I might get wet. I saw there's rain in the forecast. Thanks for the update there. We'll take the risk. Look, Reggie's Pizza, O'Neill's. Yeah, O'Neill's is on Wells. It's on the other side of this building. There's a fire station over there too. Here's this, yeah, they call this financial place. So the Board of Trade, there's the back side of the Board of Trade and the annex. Then here's when they tore down the Chicago Stock Exchange, they eventually built this building, and then there's a big restaurant at the top, nice restaurant with views. See, it says Chicago Stock Exchange, and that's why they got those arches on it. And you know, the one that Richard Nichols salvaged that you can see, the old historic stock exchange room, you can find it at the Art Institute, and we filmed that. Hey, how's it going? How you doing? Yeah, that's great. Thanks for tuning in. That's great. That's awesome. See, she's nice visuals for the camera there. That's excellent. Thanks for. See, people put me in a good mood. We can feed on other people's energy here. Look at the horse here. Look at the summertime. Of course, they'll have this fountain on. Here's the horse in front of the Chicago Stock Exchange, and you can go right up into LaSalle Street Station. So you see those windows there. See the CTA Metra. They got this little bench here. We'll catch these stairs here. Look at this sculpture to the horse here. And yeah, Chicago's changed a lot. Wait till Monday. Yeah, It's always Monday. Hey, that's good. Well, yeah, see, let's see. Yeah, that's good, Lindsay. That's good. And yeah, used to work on LaSalle Street. Yeah, 312. Thanks, Denise, for helping out there. And Anna Marie, Bell, everybody else. So we're heading up the escalator here. We're going to go into LaSalle Street Station. And so let me show you the map here. So, transit map of Chicago. You can find this online. Demishi and everybody else. See, here's the loop of Chicago. So I work over here. We walked all the way around here. Now we're here, LaSalle Street Station. You see, these are all the Metra trains that come in from the suburbs. You see how far they go? They go all the way up to Wisconsin, Indiana, out to the western suburbs. And these ones, not all of them go into LaSalle. So you know, there's four different Metra stations. This is just one of them. You see, you come up the escalator here and you walk. We're actually, those arched windows are above us because the floor, the old trading floor, is actually above the street. It's above what used to be Congress, which is now called Ida B. Wells Street. And here's the LaSalle Street Metra station, all the platforms in the head house. And you see how it's really close to the Board of Trade. And it'll take you right into the South Loop here in Chicago. So here's the LaSalle Street Station. Am I still streaming okay? So you can go out to the street that way. And you can go out this way. You see here's you know, you got an app on your phone. You can have a ticket right on your phone. And they see they got Rock Island, goes to Joliet. So this is the train that Grim Evil could take to get to Joliet. There's another train that goes to Union, I think. And here's a train pulling into the station here. Look at this, Chris. So trains, planes, automobiles. Look at the new housing being built there in the South Loop. Here comes a Metra train pulling into the station here, LaSalle Street Station. So we'll stop and see people get off here. 12:35. We got 43 degrees. Welcome to Chicago. And you see how nice this is here. Yeah, I guess there's still fire call boxes. Why not? You think they? I'll see if I can find any fire call boxes. You took the bus? Yeah, you could take the bus. Yeah, the conductor helps. There you go, Chris. Yeah. So here's the Metra. See, it pushed. Look how expertly it stopped there. The engine pushed in from the back, and look at it. No, that's okay. I'm just showing people how to use transit. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's good. So here's LaSalle Street Station. He was telling the conductor that I was videoing. I didn't want to make the conductor nervous. There was a worker there, and so LaSalle Street Station. And we'll get out of here before they tell me to get out. You never know. You never know. Where's Danny when I need him? My legal liaison there. But here we'll head right back out the way we came. We'll go past the horse statue and we'll head back up to Van Buren. We'll see if we can find the Fisher's building right next to the Monadnock building, because we'll see if I can sneak in the lobby before the security stop me. And it's a beautiful historic vintage skyscraper, one of the early steel frame construction buildings. But if you just joined, we're in Chicago. We just saw the Metra train pull into the LaSalle Street Station there. And thanks for tuning in there. Madison used to be the last. Yeah, now it goes all the way to what? There's Manhattan. What? I don't know. There was the map right there. You can look on the map there to see how far south it goes, and you can't take it to Bourbonnais, or you can take the Amtrak to Kankakee, but that's the one that gets you down to Champaign and Carbondale and all that, the Saluki. But look at this horse statue here. This is this plaza by the Chicago Stock Exchange. Look at that water tower, and hey, there's the CTA brown in the bin there, pink line. There's look how you can see the Board of Trade, the Sears Tower, the 311 South Wacker building. We're in this plaza here. It's pretty empty. You see the Chicago Board Options Exchange. When I moved to Chicago 25 years ago, this used to be busy. At lunchtime, you would see all the traders with their color-coded blazers and name tags, because they would do the hand signals. If you watch the old Ferris Bueller's Day Off, they go there and they visit the trading floor. It's all electronic now. The pits are gone. There used to be cattle pits and some of the last pits where they would do open outcry trading, but it's all going to be AI now. Look at high frequency. Look at the tulips coming out here. Got sounds of the city here behind us. Giroux Cabin. And I just thought of something. It's so funny. We'll wait till this siren clears out here. I'm talking. So it's an ambulance coming out here. I tire. Oh my God. I tire of trying to talk over the sirens because it's louder to me than it sounds on the phone here. But here's the backside of the Board of Trade. And again, if you've seen planes, trains, and automobiles, they set at this LaSalle and Van Buren station here, John Candy and good old Steve Martin. But yeah, I want your feedback and perspective on this. I know people are, rightly or wrongly, people are very concerned about immigration, illegal and legal migration and immigration to the United States. What about the robots? I see that Elon Musk is partnering with Google or something. They're doing we go to the Tesla store, you see the robots. What about the robots replacing us? What about corporate America replacing us with corporate? Why are people not equally outraged by us being replaced by robots? Because a lot of us have already been replaced by robots with artificial intelligence, computer trading, computer economies of scale where they don't need, as much people working retail because of online commerce. And so I think it's a shift. They want to shift the blame from themselves. Look, Bonavito Pizza, fine Italian cocktails and food. Pizza by the slice, $5.50 here. We're on Van Buren here. Look at the nice place, Bonavito. And we're gonna pass, this is some of the Chinatown before it went down to Wentworth and Cermak. This used to be the Chinese enclave in the late 1800s, around the turn of the 20th century. And there's evidence of it. Here's American Submarine here. We're right here at Van Buren and Clark Street. And see right there, La Cocina restaurant. You see that looks, it looks like the Ping Tom Park pagoda there. This is the remnants of a real Chinese restaurant sign from when this was the Chinese enclave before it went down to Chinatown. And we're on Clark Street, right where the Clark and Van Buren station is here, on the LaSalle Van Buren station here in South. This is the start of the South Loop of Chicago. And look at that sign there. That's from Jeffrey Bear shows this as well. This last remnants, Manhattan Mart Food and Liquor. This block, see, these buildings go back to the 1880s, after the Great Chicago Fire, and this was a Chinese enclave before it moved further south here. So we'll cross the street here at Van Buren and Clark. Actually, I'll stay on this side here. So here's the Metropolitan Correctional Center. This is that federal prison. And I want to show the Monadnock building, the Fishers building, the old Colony building, and the Manhattan building. These are vintage classic skyscrapers. And they're best seen from this plaza, which there's nobody here because this is the federal prison right in the South Loop of Chicago, right? There's a skyscraper prison. That's what they got, the narrow windows. And again, I tell the story, there was actually two prisoners a while back that actually widened one of those windows and escaped with bed sheets, and they hailed a taxi, but they caught them. So they put bars back on those little narrow windows because even people found a way to escape from the narrow windows. But there's the south portion of Monadnock. The north is load bearing, the south is steel frame construction. There's the Fishers building that Chris was referring to. We'll get over there. There's the old Colony building, and there's the Manhattan building. That's William LeBaire and Jenny the same architect that did the first skyscraper, which the home insurance company building, which has been tore down. They tore it down to build the LaSalle Bank. But there's the Monadnock building. It takes up the whole block here. We'll get over to the Fishers building. Federal and Van Buren, what time we got here? 12:43. There's the pigeons. But look at the bottom. Look at the Monadnock building. Look how, I mean, it just looks like you're back in the 1880s right there. Look at that, the Monadnock. You can walk right through the bottom there. But I'm going to try to check out the Fishers building. We can do the Monadnock building some other time. You can walk. I've walked through there. They got beautiful letter boxes. And here's the, what is this? This is the Van Buren and Clark Street Station, or the LaSalle Street Station. There's Dearborn. Here's the Fishers building. The same thing. We're underneath the L tracks down here at Van Buren. Look at the beautiful Fishers building here. We'll cross through here. See, the Harold Washington Library's that way. Here's the Fishers building. Look at the Monadnock. So this portion is steel frame construction. The north end is load bearing walls. They're really thick. This is steel frame construction. Look at that plane. Look at that plane flying into that building. Wow, that is nuts. And let's see if we can get into the lobby of the Fishers building here. People are yelling at me on the street. They see somebody at the camera. They were like, hey, let's ask this guy for money. Steal his phone. Here's the Fishers building. So here, let's see. I'll go quiet here for a second. We'll scope this out here. Let's see if we can get inside here. Fishers building, city apartments. I don't know if this is the main lobby or not. Chris, we're inside the Fishers building. Look at these elevators. Wow. Look at these elevators. Some of these they used to have where they actually had olive. Look at here's the Flatiron building in New York City. How's it going? Look at this beautiful. Look at that one. How's it going? No, this is the historic Fishers building, right? This is a very historic building. Yes. Thank you. Okay, I'll go back outside. I just wanted to see how beautiful this lobby is. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's great. So there's a concierge right there, so I don't want to overstay my welcome. Look at the insects. There's like crabs and little what is that? Is that like a Cancer, the zodiac sign? But here's look at that, Chris. Look, they got fish because it's the Fishers building. The architect did that. They put these little flourishes in here. Look at the beautiful detail of the Fishers building. Yeah, someone called security. Yeah. Well, you know, I just peeked around the corner. It's not that big of a lobby, and there might be the commercial side might be on the other side. This is one of the entrances where they actually have housing. They actually, people live in this building. Chris, you can live in this building, and that's what these elevators are. Look, be home by the holidays, up to 1 free month of rent here at the Fishers building. So check it out here. Here's the historical marker here. Fishers building, Burnham, D.H. Burnham, the Burnham plant of Chicago. Terracotta fish, eagles, salamanders, other ornamental forms make the Fisher. Yeah, isn't this amazing? Yeah, Chris, thanks. I'm glad you know about this. And of course, there's the Monadnock. There's, you know, look at these windows. And look how you can see the old colony building with those curves. You know, it's just such a nice historic block here, right here. These vintage skyscrapers. So we'll continue along Van Buren here. We got to see a little glimpse of it. And, you know, security does what security does. Here's the, look at the side of the Fishers building here. This is the Van Buren side. See, Fisher City Apartments, that's what they call it here. See, you can't even get in here. There's not even, they took the handles off the door because they had, you know, people try to get in from see the old colony building right there. And here we'll go right through, we're at Plymouth and Van Buren. We'll go by the Harold Washington Library here. And we'll get a really good view from it here. There used to be a lot of people that congregated here. I think they've been clearing people out because they've been having problems with people loitering and congregating here. When I walked here before, there used to be a big group of people yelling at me when I would walk through here, especially with the camera, because they think I'm the police and I'm not, because they see a camera and they think it's surveillance. But look at look at the Fishers building, the old Colony building. There's a really good view here from, and here's the Harold Washington Library. We're down here, Van Buren and State. There's the DePaul University has stuff in there. UIC, the last remaining Barnes & Noble bookstore. Besides, you know, I know they want to move back into the Knoll State Bank there at North Walking-Damon, but they haven't done it yet. And there's the Harold Washington. There's the Winter Garden at the Harold Washington Library. Jay went up there. I went up there. And look at the Fishers building there. You can see the whole thing almost. So here we'll cross over State Street and we'll head down. This is a really old building too. You can see it, the back side of it from the L. And here we'll cross the street here, and we'll head under the Van Buren here. Hey, Harold Washington Library. We went in there before. My connection cuts out. Maybe I'll try the hotspot sometime, and we'll actually try to get up to the Winter Garden there. But this building goes back to the 1890s. I mean, this is a really old building. You can see it from the back there. We're just waiting across State Street here. Elena, how's it going? Richard? Yeah, every time something new. Yeah, the Fishers building. So here's State Street looking north. We were up there earlier. Here's the look at the Harold Washington. Luckily the rain's holding off here, so we'll just head up to Wabash. I got 10 minutes to make it up Wabash. You think I'm gonna make it? That's okay, it's Friday. So look at the red. This used to be the CNA building. Now it's Northern Trust, took it over, but it's that iconic red building, a modernist behemoth. And we'll head to the southeastern corner of the loop. There, look at the train. There's the orange line. It's going to head south, go to Midway. So it'll go straight through. So we'll get a really good view of the orange line heading to Midway here. And look at the murals. Or look at that. Some of that's graffiti. Some of it's murals there. Look at the train there heading south through the South Loop, Chicago. Thanks for tuning in here. And there, Chris, you can see Roosevelt University, the auditorium building, from the backside here. Oh yeah, there's shady people all around here, but believe me, I'm well aware of the risk I'm taking. I know people are just trying to help out. It doesn't help me out. You know, people saying be careful. I know people just want to do well wishes, and you know, if I wanted to be careful, I would stop live streaming completely and you wouldn't get any of this footage. So somebody has to take the risk. It's me. I know the risk I'm taking. And so I'm happy to do it because I've been walking through this area for years anyway. And I don't have any kids. So if somebody offs me, it'll be worth it, you know. Here, let's head up. We'll go straight up Wells Street here. No, this is Wabash. We went down Wells Street. Now we're going up Wabash the other side. So we just left Van Buren, and we'll head up Wabash here. This will be a nice little walk here. Streaming great, Anna Marie, thank you. Daryl. Stay out in the suburbs where you're safe. Nothing bad ever happens in the suburbs, right, Daryl? I know it's hard. The city's, it's, you know, here comes the pink line. Here comes the pink line heading down the tracks here. Heading around the loop. See, it's only four cars wide. I know, like Sarah and some of my other smart moderators like Jay, they say just ignore when people say, you know, I don't react well when people are like, Chicago's corrupt, violent, horrible hellhole, you know, and I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? You know, even if I agree with you, you know, someone needs to cover Chicago. It's the third largest metropolitan area in America. It's part of America. I know large portions of America hate Chicago. It bothers me that they do. It's because of politics, and you know, it just motivates me to keep doing it because I ain't gonna stop because someone is angry in the comments. That's stupid, you know. And I should just ignore it, but I don't, because I'm just like, well, what's your point? What am I supposed to do about it? Can I, as one person, because you made a comment, change this? No, we have to accept the world as it is. And this city had crime when I moved to it 25 years ago. This city was corrupt when Daley II was running it, the last remnants of the political machine. He sold off the parking meters. I'm still angry about that. He sold off the parking meters to a nameless, faceless international corporate conglomerate that could raise the rates. If the city would raise the parking meter rates, people would go nuts. But we lost control over it. It's selling of the commons to a corporation to fund the pensions. So some of what Danny talks about is correct. But what am I going to do about it? I can't change it. Am I going to run for political office? Then I'd be corrupt. Look at because we're all beholden to corporate interests to get elected. Look at the green line heading through here. And so I got to understand, people are just venting. People, you know, they see Chicago, they're going to say what they're going to say because they're angry. You know, this self-loathing of America, I'm just tired of it. You know, I know liberals did it too. Liberals would be like, oh, we're a racist nation. And then the right said, oh, we're a corrupt nation. Well, there's truth to both sides of that thing, you know, and we haven't dealt enough with either of those things, you know. But yeah. Welcome to Chicago. We'll go by Miller's Pub here. Here's the back of the Symphony Center here. They got a nice restaurant. Omaha politics. Yeah, he was too honest for office. I know it's hard. It's hard to be an honest broker, you know, because there's pressures on all sides. Look, historic Route 66. Here's Adams Street. So of course, Route 66 starts right there at here. We'll cross the street so we can film Miller's Pub here. Here we're going underneath the L tracks here on Wabash and Adams. This is Route 66. We filmed the begin sign for Route 66. Goes to California, the historic sign here. And this is the Adams and Wabash station here on the loop of Chicago. And we'll cross the street here. Yeah, Harold Washington, Mayor Washington. He tragically died in office with that really shook up the city because, you know, he was the first African-American mayor of Chicago in the 80s after Jane Byrne. And there was another mayor, I think. Well, I forget. See, there was Richard Daley II, then there was Michael Blandick, and then there was Jane Byrne, and then Harold Washington came after that. Was there anybody between Jane Byrne and Harold Washington? Because I wasn't living in Chicago at that time. Here's Miller's Pub. Miller's Pub on Wabash. This is Wabash, just north of Adams. Prime rib. We've taken a peek inside there. I'm sure they'll have it decorated for St. Patrick's Day. Look at the detail for the Palmer House. This is the Palmer House Hilton. There probably used to be windows there, but they closed them off. Palmer House Hilton. Of course, we filmed inside there many times. You can check out the old footage where we go inside that historic lobby here. But here's the Wabash street entrance for the Palmer House Hilton. It takes up almost a whole block here. Eugene Sawyer, thank you. Eugene Sawyer, I forgot Eugene Sawyer, thank you. See, I knew there was, so Eugene Sawyer didn't serve that long. I guess, you know, and then Harold Washington was in the 80s. Like when the Bears went to the Super Bowl, Harold Washington was mayor, and then he died in office, and then they had somebody else interim, and then they had another election, and that's how Richard M. Daley, the son of Richard J. Daley, came to power in Chicago after Harold Washington died. And thanks for helping out with my mayors there. Yeah, I always forget Eugene Sawyer. Thanks, Daryl, and thanks, Chris. Yeah. Yeah, Miller's Pub. I used to eat at Miller's Pub all the time. I'll go back there. Brandon went there. Brandon checked it out, which is great, you know. And here we'll head over to where we at here, Wabash and Monroe. This is Monroe Street. See the other entrance to the Palmer House Hilton is right there. Here's Monroe. You can get over to Millennium Park and all that. The School of the Art Institute of Chicago, Bueller's Row. We'll stay on this side of the street here because we walked up the other side yesterday. Bueller's Row. Look at these nice facades they kept. This is housing too, this blue building. That's all housing. And just like the Heritage, they saved the old storefronts. They saved the facades. And then there's a roof deck on top of there for the amenity for the residents there. There's a green line heading north there on the loop over Wabash here. But Wabash is pretty nice. Wabash and State. There's usually people on Wabash and State. Jewelers Row here. Look at those cast iron columns there. Look at the detail. Some of these are really historic. I don't know who the architects are on these. I need to look into it. Look at this building. Look at this green glazed tile. Look how nice that is. Silversmith Hotel and Suites here. Look at this. Look at the little notches in it, and wow. So here's the Washington and Wabash station here, and we'll go right by that same memorial that we filmed yesterday. The two teens that were tragically gunned down here. We were walking that day on January 26th, and it illustrates this senseless, tragic gun violence that affects the city that people remind me of in the comments every day, and it gets so old. But do you think we'll ever find an end to it? I don't know. Here, Washington and Madison, part of the loop here. And there's the Pittsfield Tower. Here, we'll head across the street here. They should have to stop here. Nope, they're still coming. They're still coming. Chicago Landmark Diamond Center. Chicago style windows, yeah, that's to see how big and wide they are. Really opens it up. See, they got TJ Maxx, Burlington Coat Factory. You can go right through that building, come out of State Street. When they updated the station, they added the elevator, they got escalator, they got that transition. Here's the, they call it the Stevens Building, 16 North Wabash here. Chicago School of Massage Therapy, right there. You can be a masseuse. But here's the memorial that we filmed this yesterday, and there's the two teens that were tragically struck down right here. Montario Williams and little Rob Boston. Such a tragedy. But we'll keep on going here. And Museum of Illusions. See, we went to the. I got a YouTube. We went to the Museum of Illusions. We went through the Vortex Tunnel. Here comes a train, pink line heading into the station here. People honking. Sounds of the city here. Hey, we got 6 seconds to get across. Let's cross. So here's Wabash. Look how dark it is underneath the station there. There's a nice view. We caught this view yesterday. This nice view to the Jewelers Building. I really like how the Jewelers Building looks heading up here. And maybe someday they'll remove that sign from that building there. We'll see. We'll see if he has to sell it. And I know I get flack from all sides. If I show the building, people are angry. If I don't show the building, people are angry. I work near it. I have to show it. I have to walk past it and deal with that building and that giant sign there on it. But here, look at the Jewelers Building. Look at this building. So this is the back side of Marshall Fields. Am I right? Yeah. And the Macy's. See Macy's, Marshall Fields. That's this. See how it's several buildings that they piece together to make that giant block there. And this just takes up the corner where the Tiffany Dome is. It's actually in this building. It kind of wraps around like an L shape, fat L shape. Karen, how's it going there, Jovan? Yeah. You want some Chicago dogs? Yeah, we'll send them to Kingwood, Texas. That's nice. Kingwood, is that down by Corpus Christi? Yeah, it's the Kingwood Ranch. That's good. Well, thanks for tuning in there. That's the. Or no, I'm thinking of the King Ranch. It was the King Ranch. Kingwood somewhere else. I'll look it up on the map there. Thanks for tuning in from Texas. That's nice. And look, Midway, there's the orange line heading to another orange line heading to Midway. That's how I get to my Southwest flights. So yeah, if you just tuned in, we're in Chicago, just walking around the loop. Look at this. Got the brown line coming. Scenes of the city. Thanks for tuning in here. So we'll get you. Look at that, right above us, into the train. So Wabash, Marshall Field and Company. We're at the corner of Randolph and Wabash. Look at this great view, the density of Wabash, and see how they saved these facades, built the housing above it. And they did it with that blue building too. This is housing. This is housing right here. More people than ever live in the loop. See the theater district, Marshall Field and Company. They got the Nederlander Theater, used to be the Oriental. And originally it was the Iroquois Theater. There was a horrible fire, destroyed the Iroquois Theater like in 1900 something. And this heads over to Michigan Avenue. We'll cross here. And then we did a full circumnavigation of the loop. We went down Lake Street, went down Wells, came back Van Buren, and went north on Wells. So we did the whole thing, and it took an hour. Isn't that amazing, just walking around the loop? It's 5 blocks wide, 7 blocks long, and amazing. The density that transit and rail concentrates all this density in the loop. And Uno's Pizza. Really? They had some Uno's Pizza you can buy at the grocery store. That's great. Yeah, you can get some Chicago style. They ship it around the country. That's nice. Look at this alley. That alley goes right over to the Chicago Theater there on State Street. Hey, the halal guys. Get your falafel, euros. Hey, how's it going? That's great. They're saying hello there. And capriotis. Oh, taco smell. Why go to Taco Bell when you can go to 26th Street and go to Las Camales, get some real tacos. Look at that building. That's the Virgin Hotels. And you can see the top of the Jewelers building here. But hey, thanks everybody for tuning in on this grand tour of the underneath the L tracks. Didn't you always want to see that? Yeah, we went through some really shady spots there, especially on Van Buren, over by the Harold Washington Library. But now we're up by the Harold Washington College, and here, if I cross here, we'll get a nice view of the train here, round in the bend here. Yeah, look at this. Wow, look at that. So, Elephant Castle, we'll head back to Michigan Avenue. You know where we're at now. We're back to the Self Park here. Tall building here, and begins with the T. We should make it the Rum Building. I agree with Chris. Elephant Castle. Look at the Self Park here. Look at that. And yeah, they got it decorated for St. Patrick's Day. Even though this is, I'm pretty sure this is a British pub. They surely. I know the UK and Ireland fought a war for Ireland to gain their independence, so I don't know. Maybe it is a Irish pub. I don't know. I need to look into it. I just know London, they would always have those, you know. I think there's an Elephant and Castle train stop there in London. It's like a train station, like Piccadilly and all the, you know, Paddington Station and all that stuff. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I need May. Is May tuning in? May would know. Anybody tuning in from England? Yeah. Mama Goo, how's it going there? Yeah. Well, pizza on Irving Park, that's good. Here's the Broken English Taco Pub. Garland Court, J.C. Rivera. So I'm gonna head back to work, 107. Everybody have a great Friday here. Thanks for tuning in for this little tour of the loop. I hope you have a happy Friday. I'll probably be brain dead when I'm walking home on TikTok tonight, but hopefully I won't go on another rant like I did last night talking about the Melungeons or some other thing that no one will understand. It'll just give me problems because I'll be like, what's this guy talking about? Doesn't make any sense. Stuff that happened 400 years ago. But people ask me some questions about Native Americans. I love talking about indigenous history because it's I've learned so much. It's so hard to find. You know, the history we learned left a lot of that out, you know. At least the history I learned about American history. So we'll cross here. Everybody have a great Friday there. I'm going to sign off. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I'll take it early. Yeah, you can tell when it starts to take effect. When I get towards the my house there, I'm just like a zombie, ready to go to bed. But hey, have a good Friday there. We'll see you in a few hours there on TikTok. Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Thanks to the Lunch Bunch. Happy March 1st. Okay, bye.